Awesome. All right, everybody, come on in and we're going to get started in 1 minute. Excellent. Okay, hello, good afternoon, and welcome to Penn State Berks LionSide Chats. Come on in and welcome to our campus. We're glad you could join us today. My name is Dawn Pfeiffer-Wrights, and I'm one of 3 LionSide Chat moderators working alongside Dr. Ryan Hassler and Sonia Delaqueto. So before we get started, I have a little bit of housekeeping I wanted to share. Feel free to submit your questions throughout our session today using the question and answer feature. We will not be using the chat or the raise hand feature in today's LionSide Chat. Once our presentation concludes, we will facilitate a Q&A discussion with our session panelists. We are also recording today's session, so you'll be able to revisit this topic or even share the experience with friends or family. Now I'm excited to introduce my colleague, Dr. Jill Burk, who will be hosting our chat today called, "What Can I Do with a Communication Arts and Sciences Degree? Let's Ask an Alum." Dr. Burk, are you all ready?
I'm ready, thank you.
Awesome, enjoy.
Thanks so much, Dawn, for the introduction. And today I have 3 of our distinguished communication arts and sciences alums here to talk with us and share some some inspiration, some advice, and tell us a little bit about their journey from Penn State Berks to where they are today. We may have another panelist or 2 join us. So once, if they arrive a little bit late, we will greet them and welcome them as well. So what I would like to do is I would like each panelist to introduce him or herself, to tell us a little bit about who you are, the year that you graduated from Berks, share your current job title, because I think that's helpful sometimes for our students, and to talk about the organization that you work for. And if you want to tell us like 3 to 5 sentences, sort of short, about your career journey, like how you got to this point, that would be great. But I'm sure we'll also touch on that then as we get through some of the questions. So we'll start with you first, Ashley, if you'd like to unmute yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. My name is Ashley Pinero. When I graduated, I was Ashley Gardner, and I graduated in 2012. So I am currently a training and development lead, and I work for a company called Alliance Science and Technology. It's a technology company, but we focus on government contracts, mostly with the military, the United States Armed Forces. And my focus is organizational. So I really work with our organization and our team to help get them to where they need to be professional. We do all different types of training sessions, and we focus on things anywhere from project management to the actual products that we deliver with our company. I am supervising my team, so I lead my training team. They've never had a training team in this organization before, so I have created and developed everything that we have here and have built a lot here, and it's very exciting. And my journey has been, after graduation, I kind of fell into training, and we can talk about that more if you have more questions then. But it was a surprise. I fell into training, didn't know it was a field that we could do, and fell in love with it, and have been doing it since 2012 in different capacities with a few other companies, and have landed here as a supervisor.
Awesome. Thank you, Ashley. Mike, we're going to go to you next. Tell us a little bit about who you are, when you graduated, what you do, and a bit about your journey.
All right. Hello, everybody. My name is, well, when I was in Penn State, I was Michael. Well, I am still Michael Bonsu, but I go by my professional alias, which is Brizzy on the Beat. I'm a music producer, songwriter. I'm from Philadelphia, but currently right now I'm located in Los Angeles right now. I'm transitioning to Los Angeles. I'm getting ready to actually sign a publishing deal with Warner Chapel. And so I'm out here working, just working. And what I do for a living is produce music for many different artists, major, you know, if you just to name a few, like, you know, PNB Rock, I have a lot of records getting ready to drop with a lot of new up and coming major artists. It's just been a blessing. My transition to get where I'm at, literally just from just being at Penn State. I didn't know where I wanted to go with my life. I really just went to college for my mom. Like I wanted to, get out of the neighborhood, the area where I was from. So I decided to go to college. I messed around from major to major, trying to really find myself, instead of trying to copy and follow this person because they're in, a business major. This one's in kinesiology, whatever. I didn't know what I wanted to do. But one day I just kind of like took a CAS 100 class. And once I got the background about it, it really helped me broaden my mindset. It helped me train my mindset to really be able to whatever room I'm in, I'm able to work it. I'm able to talk to people. I'm able to communicate. I'm able to like learn fast. Like it was just easy. I felt like I found a fitting place for me. So after I graduated in 2013, I was able to get any job I wanted, any career I wanted. I was a college advisor. I helped recruit students into technical colleges, career colleges. I was there for about a year. Once the school transitioned and closed down, I ended up working for Bank of America. And also I was a life insurance salesman as well. Like the CAS just taught me I could be a chameleon. I could be a six-figure earner. I could be a millionaire. It's just all about what I really plan on putting my heart to. But music has always been my passion. Has always been my dream. I decided to take the music career full time. I jumped off the cliff, and I just took all the faith I had. And 2017, I never left the studio. I literally was just working in the studio. Everything that I learned from CAS, I just put it into my career myself. And now I'm here. So 4 years later, I'm getting ready to do a major situation.
Awesome. Thank you, Mike. Thanks so much. Okay, Erica, can you introduce yourself a little bit and tell us about your journey?
Sure. I'm Erica Caceres. I am a graduate of 2014. At first, I was a professional writing major, and it wasn't until I think it was CAS 100 as well with Dr. Cheryl Nicholas, who just opened my eyes and said I had to be a CAS major, and I flipped it. I'm a PW minor and a CAS major. So I love CAS, like I always promote it. Currently, I am a manager of membership services and marketing at the Pennsylvania Apartment Association. It is a nonprofit statewide association for the multifamily industry, for apartment association. And what I do there is marketing and onboarding. So my focus is communication. So I talk a lot. I do a lot of graphic design and video editing, and since graduation, that's where I fell into. I was always doing marketing, and I knew I was a creative person at heart. And I fell in love with what I do today, and I'm just learning more and more. And just like Michael said, CAS really does open your eyes and gives you the confidence that you can do whatever you want as long as you put your mind to it.
Thank you, Erica. And Allie, welcome. It's good to see you. Can you introduce yourself? Tell us your current job title, the organization that you work for, and just a little bit about what you do and your journey
Sure.
to that space.
Sure. So my name is Allie Schul. I'm a 2016 graduate of the CAS major degree. Currently, I am a certified EPIC ambulatory analyst for Penn Medicine. So I work to actually, interestingly enough, build software for physicians, which sounds a little bit off the cuff. But to get here, my CAS degree actually had a lot to do with it. After graduation, I kind of got more into the healthcare field, and I took a job as a credentialed trainer for the EPIC software. So my public speaking was at an all-time high. I trained classes and users for St. Luke's Healthcare Network up in Lehigh Valley to use their software. The longest class that I trained was actually 16 hours long. So I was in front of the room speaking the whole time. And the goal there is to be interactive and an engaging speaker to make something as dull as software fun to be in for 16 hours of worth of class time. So the CAS degree definitely helped me with that, especially because when I came into that field, it was for the go live. So the healthcare network was switching from one software system to another, which no one ever wants to do. You don't want to have your life disrupted when you've been working on this for 16 years within this software, and now all of a sudden you've got to learn something brand new. So it definitely helped me to be able to make it fun and engaging and help to really connect with my users so that they were more excited about having to learn it. And from that, I transitioned into being an analyst, where again, my degree came into play, especially in the remote work environment with COVID, because I work on a very large team. It's, I think, one of the bigger software teams at Penn Medicine. So I have to make sure I'm communicating effectively my changes and working with my teammates in that manner in a virtual environment. I actually took this job in January of 2020 and had to go to Wisconsin for 2 weeks to be certified. So I was on site for maybe a month with my new coworkers before everything went virtual. So I was extremely grateful that I was able to communicate effectively and kind of advocate for myself in a manner of asking questions and learning what I needed to learn to bond with my coworkers and complete my certification virtually. So CAS definitely helps me out with that.
Awesome. Thank you. Okay, so now we're going to mix it up a little bit. And like I said, I'm going to jump around and ask different people different questions to hear some different perspectives. So I know that in our, well, I'm hoping in our audience, we have a number of students who are graduating seniors. So I would like to ask you all, there are so many different tools that we can use to find jobs. How did you think about one of the jobs that you have had? How did you find that job? Did you find it through a good old fashioned one ad? Did you find it through LinkedIn? Did you find it through another tool? So how did you find, it doesn't matter if it's your current job or another job, you know, a job that you have had. Ashley, tell us, how did you find one of your jobs or your current job?
All right. So ironically enough, Allie, I started as an instructional designer for Epic. So that was the first job out of school, was working as a credential trainer and then an instructional designer. And I found that job through other jobs. I was applying for different jobs, just trying to find something. And I had my resume, a temp agency viewed my resume, and they were like, hey, everything you're applying for, it doesn't work. And I was just like, I feel overqualified for some of these things. They're like, yeah, this would actually be a better fit for you. Have you ever thought about being in training? No, I never thought about that. So that's actually how I got my first job, was via a temp agency that I had no intentions on getting the job that I ended up with, and kind of fell into that. The current job that I have, I use both of them actually. I used Indeed for, so that I do like Indeed and LinkedIn. I think LinkedIn is great. I was a recruiter in my last role, and LinkedIn was very, very beneficial for us. So.
And Mike, you talked about some very diverse grouping of jobs. Choose one to tell us. And I know you're an entrepreneur at this point, but more of maybe a traditional job. How did you find one of those jobs?
It was the same thing with me. It really was just like Indeed. I was a heavy Indeed surfer. Like, I was in Indeed every single minute. That's one thing I could say. But the key to really landing my job was just networking. I used to attend a lot of networking events because when I was an insurance salesman, while I was in college, I can say one thing that the CAS classes, the major, really helped me out with is public speaking, and again, confidence. So I really got my jobs from Indeed and just networking with different people, because you never know who knows who and what people actually do for a living. So I went to a meeting from that I was invited to, because again, networking is important. Network with everybody, make friends. And this one lady that I met, she talked about what she was doing. She was a recruiter for a college, a technical college. So I asked her, how she liked it, how long she's been in it, what was her background. She said she was a communication major, ironically. And she told me how she was comfortable enough to tell me how much she was like starting out making. That was easy for me. I liked it. So I applied. I didn't get that job, but that's when I really went into Indeed. She helped me, out with my resume, and I started working for a technical college, and just literally just by networking and Indeed. That's really it. You gotta hustle. Gotta hustle.
Awesome. Thanks, Mike. Erica, can you tell me one thing that you love about your job?
One thing that I love about my job currently is the opportunity to learn more and do more. And I have a great team that allows me to just do and be creative. Of course, you have to go through your approvals and all that, but that's what I love about the learning and education and doing things outside of the traditional box.
Thank you. Allie, we'll go to you. Tell us one thing you dislike about your job.
Dislike about my job. I think the thing about my job is it finds me in a place where it kind of found my personal weakness, which is I need to finish things that I start. And when they come up, they can take quite a bit to, one, diagnose the problem, figure out what's going on, two, find the right people who are going to be able to tell you what you can do and have approval of. So I, especially in COVID with my remote job, have a hard time putting those things down. It really engages my brain and like gets my brain in a way that people have noticed that after I've started this job, I'm much more quick now because I'm not just set in a mode where I'm doing the same thing every day and I feel like a broken record. I really have to think and problem solve. So once my brain like latches onto something, I don't realize what time it is. So sometimes I work until like 8:30 at night, but I think that might be a me problem. So.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I might ask all of you this question. So, because I'm excited to hear what you have to say. So when you first started your job or started your career or started working, what was the most surprising thing you learned? Whether it was about yourself or about the industry or about your skill set or relationships. So when you first went out there in the workforce, what was one of the most surprising things that you learned? Does anyone want to start first? Go ahead, Erica.
One of the biggest surprises that when I started working is that not everybody likes communication. And you can either over communicate and it overwhelms people, and you can under communicate as well. And that was the most frustrating thing that I encountered, because I'm a talker, and communication, with our degree, we're all talkers, and we just want to get everyone to know what we know in our head. And it's, typing, and they're like, oh my gosh, that's a hell of an email. So that was one of the things that I learned firsthand right away.
Awesome, thank you. Anyone else ready to talk about something they learned? Allie, go ahead.
I think the biggest thing I learned was that I was more prepared than I thought that I was. It's really scary to be in college and, you've been there for 4 years, these people, you found your niche, you're working through those things, and then all of a sudden you're an adult and life is real and you've got to figure things out. And it was nerve-wracking when I was graduating, just to try and know what I didn't know and figure that out. But I knew a lot more than I thought that I did. And just from being able to engage with people and talk to people and really kind of form relationships, whether it was on a personal level or on a professional engagement level, I was definitely more prepared to join the workforce than I felt like I was. So it was a very reassuring thing once I figured that out.
Awesome. Mike or Ashley, either one of you Mike's going to chime in.
I think the question is like, so broad for me. But I feel like
Yes,
the
I
main
did that on
thing,
purpose.
I feel like one of the main things I learned is you just have to really just, no matter what job you have or getting, what career you want to do, you just got to really just believe in yourself. Because like just jumped into a job a few months right after like graduating, and I went from making literally no money for real, even as an insurance salesman. Like I wasn't making crazy money, but I went from that to working with adults that just got real life issues, people that just are like so egotistical, so many different personalities. So then it can really challenge your thinking to make you feel like, man, do I really want to do this? Do I really want to be here? But like I had to learn how to really just, play the game and just know how to believe in myself, and just try to outwork, myself. I believe that, it's you versus you every day. So you got to go into to whatever job, whatever career path you choose, and just make sure you go there with the ultimate confidence, even if you really didn't know what you're doing. Because I'll tell you one thing, I had really, besides talking experience, I was scared to make phone calls every day. I was scared to kind of like talk to people like in this field, but I had to believe in myself. So that's one of the main things that I learned from any job that I ever really had. Even the current career that I'm doing now, it's still like, but this is another level of it. You still just have to have confidence, gotta have belief, you gotta have, a positive attitude, So
Thank
that's
you.
it.
Ashley, how about you? Something that was the most surprising thing you learned when you first started working or being sort of out in the career world?
Yeah, so it's kind of along the same lines as what everyone's saying, but I would say I think I underestimated what I learned in college and didn't realize just how valuable certain courses were going to be. Courses that I took just because it fit my schedule or for fun. I took an instructional design course. They only offered it, I think, just that year. And what are the chances that I end up becoming an instructional designer? They pulled my resume because they saw that course. I had that information on there, and they pulled my resume, and that course is part of the reason why I'm here. So just thinking of during that course, I wrote instructions on how to tell a funny joke. And I just look back at that and think, wow, I did actually learn a lot there. And I feel like there was so much value behind it. And a lot of the courses that I took, I can relate back and just be able to pull that together and say, wow, I learned so much, and it's really valuable what I learned. It's not just to get a piece of paper, it's allowed me to have the career that I have.
Great, thank you. So let's shift a little bit. We have been talking a bit about sort of our jobs and our careers, and I'd like to shift and talk specifically about some of the things you did when you were an undergraduate and some of the courses that you took, since it sort of seems that our conversation has moved. Well, let's do sort of a round robin on this one first, and then we'll get into another sort of deeper question. So Erica, what was your favorite CAS class that you took and why?
That is a tough question, but the one class that sticks out the most is the storytelling class. I love that class a lot because everything tells a story. Everything, whether it's social media, your text messaging on Zoom, when you're talking to people face to face, you're telling a story and they're listening to you. So you have to know who your audience is and what words you're going to use so that you can engage and get that person to engage with you. So that was my favorite class, and I'll never forget the project that I had to do. I had to have Judge Judy and Golem from Lord of the Rings, and I had to somehow mesh them together. And it was very interesting. I had to find it, but it was one of my favorite stories. I got into full character. I think they were at the dentist or something, and Judge Judy had a ring and Golem wanted it. It was insane, but that was one of my favorite classes. If anybody hasn't taken it, that's on, but you have to take it if it's still available.
Awesome. So plug So plug that class
Yes.
to ADW audience.
There you go.
And we are offering it in this fall, I think. Fall. Yes, I can check. Okay. Because now I get confused sometimes what semester we're in. All right. Ashley, what was your favorite course and why?
Honestly, it was CAS 201, rhetorical theory. Because it was like mind-blowing. As I normally describe it, it's like you think you know what's going on in the world, and you're kind of just looking at this form in front of you. It's like, this is my view. This is the picture of what I see. It's like you broke open the matrix though, because you just start, every time you're in that class, like every day you're punching a hole into that wall and you start to see through it. And you're like, the world is so much bigger than I thought. It's so different than what I thought. It changed the perspective of life for me. So it completely affected who I was as a person and how I thought about things. And that class was really impactful. And I use it every day. I swear, I talk about rhetoric and just everything. I work with all engineers and I'm just always reverting back to that class to communicate. And I thought that was really big for me.
Great, thanks. Audience, we've changed the number. It's now CAS 301, rhetorical theory, but same class. Mike, what was one of your favorite classes, CAS class?
I'm so indecisive. I can't give you just one answer, man. I can't do that. Can't. But it was really literally your class.
Oh.
I believe. Yeah, it was definitely your class. I believe I had one class with you, and all my classes with Dr. Williams. Like I had my Professor Nicholas. Like it was, each room had a different energy in it for me. You know what I'm saying? So I went into every class with a different, kind of like the same attitude, but like I had to shift my mindset every class, every day. And you guys didn't play. Like you guys you guys were very lenient, but it was lenient to an extent because you challenge us to really think all the time. And before I make any decisions, literally I think. Like when I'm in the room, like I have some really famous friends because of you guys. Like, you don't understand. Because of this major, I took in so many different like attributes from each of you guys. So, I don't really have like a favorite class. You guys are like a family. That's why I decided to do the call.
Awesome. Thanks, Mike. And how about you, Allie?
Well, Ashley, I can definitely 100% agree with rhetorical theory because I think a lot about that class. But I also think that a class that impacted me a lot was intercultural communication. That you don't realize the lens that you see the world through until you discuss the lens that others see the world through. And I think about a story that Dr. Nicholas told a lot in that class, in where she had started a session of the class and she noticed there was an empty desk. There was a student missing who is not normally late. So she was a little bit concerned but also kind of confused that the student wasn't there. And while she was teaching the course, she looked out the window and saw the student standing outside talking to someone. And she's thinking to herself, well, that's kind of rude. Like, she knows the class starts at a certain time and she's not here and I can see her, and she knows that I can see her through the window. And when the student came in, Dr. Nicholas approached the student and asked her, what was going on? I saw you outside talking, and you know class starts at a certain time. But in the student's culture, it wasn't necessarily time thought of as you would think of it on a clock. It was, this next thing begins when the previous thing ends. So it would have been rude to the student to end the conversation to hurry along to class, being that that's not how their culture normally worked. So it was just something that really changed the shape of how I see things now. And it definitely made other courses like conflict management or rhetorical theory, or even like the pop culture class that I was able to take, just be so much more impactful to me, because now I can sit back and think, oh, I'm so frustrated, this isn't happening the way that I wanted to, or this person said this thing and how could they do that? But at the same time, I'm putting myself in their shoes now and thinking, well, what's their view of this? And how are they perceiving this situation? And what outside influences did they have to react in the way that they reacted. So it made me overall a better communicator because it made me not only more self-aware, but more aware of what others are perceiving as well.
Great, thank you. Okay, so this question I'm going to ask to Mike because it's you have a more non-traditional job right now than some of our other castmates have. So in what ways do the things, he disappeared on me, do the things that you learned as a CAS major show up at your work? Like how do you, the different things that you learned, how do they present themselves in sort of the daily grind that you see yourself doing?
Oh man, like I said, just being able to be like a chameleon in any room. Like I'm not hesitant to really be in any room. Like CAS made me comfortable. That's really the main thing. Like people be like, "What you gonna do? Communicate, communicate." Listen, with that communications degree, the CAS degree, it really helped me with communicating with any person. Like it taught me how to be nice to people. It taught me how to, if I want to get in that room, it might not happen today, it might not happen tomorrow, but if I keep hustling towards that one goal, being, just being that positive, choosing to be positive, choosing to not, let life just keep me down. Because one thing about life, you're gonna go through it. Good stuff, bad stuff, all kind of stuff. But the CAS whole entire background is just really just being able to communicate and being able to be confident in any room, knowing how to talk to anyone, knowing how to, not use people in a bad way if you choose to, but knowing how to borrow from people, knowing how to accept information from people, and knowing how to actually use it. So I used all of that to really help me get into the, transition into becoming a full-time entrepreneur. I haven't had a job since 2016, and I'm proud to say that I had careers at different jobs. There's nothing wrong with it. But when you really reach a certain level, you got to look back and just be like, man, what got me here? And literally just working hard every day, and just having that confidence to just, hey, what is it that you do for a living? Tell me about your career, just being able to just make new relationships and network. That's how I got every single career job. I feel like that's how I passed class. There's a lot of benefiting things. You just have to be patient with yourself, especially if getting ready to graduate and you're kind of like confused. Because I've been there. I've been through literally every single feeling that a lot of freshmen, sophomore, juniors, seniors been through. But it's like, as long as you have, again, confidence, that's the key thing. You got to have confidence and just be open. Be open. That's the whole thing with me. I was open and, brought me into many different places. I'm just really blessed, really blessed.
Thank you. Ashley, how about you? In what ways do the things you learned as a CAS major show up at your job?
So I work with all engineers, every one of them. And I find regularly that things that I've learned, they did not learn. They just have different mind or the way that things work for them. So I'm continuously noticing things that need to be brought up. And I'm actually going to share, I was just talking to my team about this because we are all non-engineers. And we noticed that they're going to name a new division and they chose the name ICE. And we find that problematic. And we'll notice things like that frequently, where they wanted to name a new process suffer. And it's constant where we'll say, wait a second. And luckily I am able to talk to leadership very openly, but I'll say, that's not the way we want this to come off. Well, let's go ahead and change the name. Well, why? Because this, and this. Oh, that makes sense. I didn't think about that. And because of everything that I learned in CAS, it has allowed me to, one, feel confident enough to say, this is a problem so that we don't end up with a Pepsi situation. But two, being able to acknowledge that there's a problem with some of these things and helping them roll things out, like our whole culture. We rolled out a whole new culture, and the way they wanted to do it was different, but I have worked with them for so long that they were like, no, we need to run this by someone who has background in communication, because if we don't, we might do something and hurt someone. And luckily they did, and I rewrote things and was able to help them. So just so many aspects of what we learned and how we learned it, and the people we got to work with, all the professors, just really great relationships with the professors, being able to ask them questions, the network that I've built. I'm still friends with my friends from when I graduated. I talk to my best friend Ian every day, who I met in CAS, and being able to have that has been huge. It's very impactful. So every day I'm using communication in some capacity of something that I learned, and I can relate it back. And what's great is I'm starting to build a team and pull people with communication degrees. So it's been awesome. It's not something that the engineers thought of, and it's really cool.
Oh, okay. So I want to ask lots of questions, but I also want to give some time for our audience to ask you some questions, because they might have some specific things they're thinking of. But I'm going to ask some sort of advice related questions, and then we'll go to some audience questions. So this is going to be a tough one. I'm going to give it to you, Allie. Get ready. If you had to do something differently during your undergraduate career, what would it have been? Whether it's related to courses or choices you made with like jobs or extracurriculars or something. If you had to do something differently during your undergraduate career, what would it have been?
I think I would have done more research on degrees, because when I came into Penn State, I actually came in as a broadcast journalism major, and I was dead set on that. I was on my high school's news show. I was like, wearing the power suits, and I'm going to be an anchor someday. And life has a funny way of not going the way that you plan it to. So I realized that I really liked Berks. I had gotten accepted to University Park, planned on going to University Park, transferred to Berks for 2 years to save money, and was going to do the 2+2. And I never really even looked at the other degrees that they had to offer at first. And when I decided, I don't like Berks, I don't know if I want to go to University Park, I started looking into more of what they had, and I was already in a communication sort of setting. So I saw communication arts and sciences, and I was dumbfounded at the change that there is when you put the S on the end of the word communication versus when it's not there. And I met with my advisor. I had talked to some of the CAS professors, and after learning more about it, I finally switched my degree to CAS and got into their classes, and got to know those professors and those students and the opportunities that was giving me. And I think that if I could have done it differently, I would have tried to get in there earlier. And it was a lot of things that I didn't know at the time that I needed to know. And I loved the fact that I could go into class, learn something, leave the classroom, and not even 5 minutes after class see examples of what I just learned. It kept me engaged. It kept me practicing the skills that I was taught. And I really wish that I would have been able to have more time within it just to soak that up. And to be honest, I saved all of my textbooks. I still have all of my CAS textbooks, and I look back at them sometimes. So I think if I could have done it over, it would have been to get involved in the major sooner.
Awesome. Thank you, Allie. What about you, Erica? Is there anything that you would have done differently during your undergraduate career?
I think I'm going to go with the same thing, getting in there earlier, because like I said, when I first started, I was the professional writing major, and I was dead set on being an author and writing poetry and publishing books, which I can still do it with my degree now. But I think I missed a year of classes that I wish I would have taken, because I was a non-traditional student. I came in a little bit older, not straight out of college. So the classes that I did take really helped me a lot when I finally made when I finally came over to the dark side, if you will, because, you know, CAS, everybody on campus really loves CAS. So.
Awesome. Thank you. All right. We'll hear from each one of you one piece of advice you would give a current undergraduate student. And then we'll pop out for questions. Go ahead, Ashley, you can start.
I think we went over this, but don't underestimate yourself. Really realize that the experiences that you have in college are going to help you with your job, and that we're all figuring it out as we go. So you can get a higher level job and still realize that you're going to be figuring it out the same way you were with your first job. Don't underestimate yourself for that reason. And then also consider the things that you do outside of college, not just your courses, but your extracurriculars. Those things, they matter. You're participating in volunteer work, everything like that, that does matter, and it will contribute to what you're doing in your career. So don't discredit that. Remember that that's all part of who you are and how you're going to build yourself.
Thank you. Erica, how about you? One piece of advice you would give to a current undergraduate student.
I know this is repetitive, but Mike, I'm going to take your answer. Networking, make relationships, talk to people, get out of your box that you're in. Also, be mindful with social media and what you post, because employers will look at that. That's very important, especially with today's day and age.
Thank you. Allie, how about you? One piece of advice you would give to a current undergraduate student.
Sure. I'm going to go a little bit of a different route, and I'm going to say apply it. So the things that you see in class are happening in the real world. You can see them outside of class. I think it was rhetorical theory that we learned that the memes that we see online come from enthymeme. They're everywhere. It's everywhere. And if you apply it, you can get into spaces you don't necessarily believe that you fit. I work in IT for the largest employer in Philadelphia, and I am the only one on my team that has a communication degree or a degree in liberal arts. I was not a nurse. I was not an inside hire. And it was applying the things that I learned in my courses that got me here. It was using the ability to communicate and the confidence that that gave me to really get involved with career services on campus, where I met Alexa, and she made me her intern. She helped me to learn how to do my resumes, how to interview, how to dress properly. And now I always joke around with my friends or people that are helping me to do so, but I'm always saying, if I can just get an in-person interview, if I can get them on the phone, I've got them. And I said that to myself before I applied for my Penn job, because I was an uncertified outside hire, which is rare. It costs $3,000 for them to pay to certify me, and they could have easily hired someone else that they wouldn't have had to spend that on, or lost the few months that it took me to learn that certification and apply for that. But when I got in there and they looked at my resume, I came in with copies of my resume to give them. I came in with the CAS courses that aligned with what fit the job on that resume. And when they were talking to me, I was able to build enough of a rapport with them to stick in their minds. So if you apply what you take from your classes to the real world, and you look for the links in the assignments that you just did with the outside world, you'll find them, and it makes it a lot easier to do so in the professional setting, and it will get you further.
Thank you, Allie. And Mike, how about you? One thing that, one piece of advice you would give a current undergraduate student.
I would say, just trust the process. Trust the process. That's like one thing that I can actually say. Just trust the process. And what is the process? If you truly want to, if you're just coming into college and you're not sure what you want to do, like me, like I didn't know what I want to do. I jumped around from major to major because I was trying to find myself. I try to rush the process. I try to, all right, this person's going into math. Let me just try this math class. I was just kind of like just jumping around, but I wasn't really trusting my own life. I was following other people because I was trying to figure it out. And that's not even an issue too, but it can be an issue if you because you can lose yourself doing that. But trust the process. You're gonna go through a lot of hardships. You're gonna go through a lot of long days, long nights, especially with a multitude of classes. But if you just keep just the end goal in mind, just that you're gonna get through whatever it is you're going through or you want to do, it's gonna happen. You just gotta trust the process. And again, with everything that everybody in the panel were saying, you gotta take each and every single thing that they say as well in the once nothing's gonna work unless you work, unless you do it. You know what I mean? You can sit down and all these type of Zoom meetings and be motivated, but if you don't take the initiative to grind and stay in them classes, learn, network with some people that might have some information that you don't know, and just try to apply it, it's not going to work if you don't work. So you just trust the process. Just trust the process. Don't give up. Stay in school. Work hard, and everything's going to work out. Trust me. I believe it.
Awesome. Thanks, Mike. Well, so our fifth panelist had a meeting, and I guess the meeting went really long, Brian.
The joys of the workday.
So welcome to our panel. So your colleagues were just sharing one piece of advice they would give to a current undergraduate student. Could you share one piece of advice? I'm going to put you on the spot here.
Sure. I would say, the best thing that I did was just to be engaged, and rather than sit in the back of class and not raise your hand and not say anything, is be engaged in a conversation. Try and provide something that benefits the conversation. The more effort and the more you put into it, the more you get out of it. And so Penn State Berks was my second go around at college, which was way better than my first go around, because my first go around when I was 18, 19, 20 years old, that's all I did was sit in the back of a class, didn't do anything, didn't stay engaged. And so I think that gets you a lot of the way. There's a lot of work on top of that, but if you're doing that, it makes all the other stuff that much easier.
Thanks. And now I'm going to ask you because I didn't, can you introduce yourself real quickly and just tell us what you do, because some of the audience might have some specific questions that you could totally answer for them. Sure,
absolutely. So my name is Brian. I went back to school, as I said, the second time at Penn State Berks in 2010, graduated in 2012 or 13. I've been mainly in sales support and marketing functions throughout my professional career. The last couple years, I've kind of gone towards the IT side a little bit more. So I am a Salesforce administrator, which Salesforce is a business CRM that's pretty widely used throughout a lot of different industries. So now I, still sort of a sales support function, but more on the IT side of the business now.
Awesome. Thank you. All right. So for our last 15 minutes, I would like to open it up to questions from the audience. I think Dawn's going to help to moderate that for us. So Dawn, I'm going to let you talk now.
All right, great. Thank you so much. Wow. As somebody that does teach Communication Arts and Sciences 100, I am so thrilled to hear all of the things that you all said today. And I loved hearing the texture that you all put in your own spaces right now that you are applying through your CAS focus and your lens there. So thank you for sharing that. I'm sitting here, I'm cheering, and I'm like, yes, 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 through every single thing that you guys were saying. So thank you. We don't have any actual questions yet. We do have a couple of comments, so I'm going to shoot those off right now. We have a thank you for being here today. And then we have a how come y'all are so awesome? And I'll let you all guess who probably said that from our faculty. And then we also have a so good to see in quotes, all of you, super proud of you. Another one of our CAS faculty. Another thank you so much. Sometimes I stress that my major isn't as worthy as others when I apply to jobs. And it seems to me that all of you have done such a great job of clarifying that. Ashley, did you want to comment about that?
I think myself and Allie wanted to comment about that.
Okay, good. Yeah, I didn't see, sorry. Let me
Yeah,
move my
no,
box over.
absolutely. I think we often feel like that, especially when like I said, I work with engineers and my husband's an engineer. You just feel sometimes when you're getting into the field, even just looking at the pay, you're like, man, why? Like, I know what I'm doing is worthy of what they're getting paid. It ends up being a proving yourself kind of thing where they have to see the value, but because of the way that you communicate and the way that you'll be able to handle yourself, they'll see that value. I can absolutely tell you, you are worthy. You're awesome. You've chosen a field that not a lot of people have, but is needed more than anyone knows. So when you get out there into the workforce, you'll realize that your value is very strong. And it's more so than a lot of people are open to seeing initially, but you do have to show that sometimes.
That's fantastic. Thank you for sharing that. Allie, did you want to comment also?
Yes, because I have been there. So I just wanted to say I have been able to form like we call them family at my job. It's like a group of 4 of us that are extremely close on my team. And I was able to do that within the remote work environment. I was able to bond with my mentor. He kind of brought me into this little group, and I'm going to throw one of them under the bus because he is a fantastic analyst. And he received a compliment from our upper management. And he let us know that he didn't know how to respond to it because he didn't know what to put in the email, or he didn't want to come across in a way that was going to be misconstrued. I actually helped him write the email back to the upper management, which now made me sort of a resource hub on the team for when you have things of that nature. Or I had a coworker recently who was applying for a lead position of our team who came to me to help with the cover letter and for her interview skills in communicating those things. And my boss actually, I'm going to use the word awarded me one of the most difficult service lines out of our health system because they are in need of lots of communication from the IT team. And on IT, communication isn't always a skill that translates into those degrees. So I was actually able to come in to that service line, form a relationship and a rapport with them. And it went from them escalating concerns that they had to upper management frequently to my boss coming to me just a couple weeks ago and saying, you know what, I haven't heard from them. So that must mean that something is going really well. And thank you very much for being able to communicate with them in a way that makes them feel as though they're being heard so that they don't feel the need to have to go to other resources. So CAS is one of the rare degrees that, as I mentioned before, you're going to see it in the real world. If you choose to apply it, or even if you don't, you're going to subconsciously know it. And it's one of those rare degrees that no matter what career you get into, you're going to use it. So it has its space everywhere. So I feel really fortunate to be able to have that skill set.
I think that's excellent. And I did write down, one of the comments I wrote down was your comment about walking out of the classroom and applying it right away. And I use that in my classes all the time. A couple more comments. So we have, so proud of you all. We do have we are represented by Dr. Williams, Dr. Ramsey, and Dr. Nicholas are in our audience today. So they have all been shouted out. So just giving them some props here. Let's see what else. Oh, here's a great question. Did you get any pushback from your family about your major? And if so, how did you handle that? Anybody have an answer to deal with there? You can volunteer. Okay, Ellie, go.
Sure.
You guys are gonna get tired of. You guys are gonna get tired of my voice. I'm sorry. I did, because I went from, my family's big worry was, you know, the traditional worry that you hear. You went from a degree in science to a liberal art degree. What are you doing? And it went from that, as they saw me go through my courses, to the career paths they saw me take and the things that I was able to do, that they're now so excited that I chose to do it instead. And my dad actually went for he's a shop steward for his job. So he's in charge of a lot of the things there. And he had come to me a couple times just to ask for different ways to word the messages that he's going to send to his team. So it went from something that's like, you changed to what, to, you know what, I'm actually kind of glad you did that. And it seems like you're doing okay. So we're happy to hear that happened. And I just kind of fielded that by saying that I saw the value in it. And I, initially had to defend it a little bit and say, here's what I'm going to learn and here's what I want to do with it. And it's going to help me get there. And like I said, it applying itself almost in my life kind of negated all of those concerns. So it was
Great, thank
almost a
you.
natural progression.
I love hearing those stories. Thank you. Brian, did you want to comment? Brian, you're muted.
Yep, I know. I'm sorry. So I would say, I know a lot of people that did a lot of different majors in college, and I can guarantee you that I don't know what the statistics are, but it's got to be over half or more than that. You go in one major, whether it's psychology, science, and you come out and you have a completely different job than what you went for. So, I came back and I had a couple ideas what I wanted to do career-wise, but I didn't have like a specific job in mind that I wanted. And, I think just CAS being that thing that builds your skill sets that you can use for a variety of different jobs. And so, unless you're going to be a molecular biologist and you need chemistry 4000 and that's what you want to do, I don't necessarily think other people telling you you should do this major or that major should be a big bearing on what you make as your decision.
Awesome. I appreciate that. Thank you. A couple more questions have popped up. Let's see. Thank you for sharing. How do you all explain to others the CAS major when asked? I often get the question, so what can you do with that?
Actually, I just had this conversation this week because I was talking about the panel, and they're like, they were in a classroom where somebody's like, I want to be a communication major. And they said, well, what are you going to do with that? And I said, well, they should have answered anything I want to do, because that's essentially the answer. Not only do you have such a fluid degree, but you also can apply that to what you like. And just look at the five of us. We all have very different careers right now with the same degree. So it's basically whatever you want, whatever you put your mind to it.
That's great. I love that question. This one is a little different than the stream of questions that we've had, but I'm going to ask it anyway. What do you do for fun? And did CAS influence this in any way? Love that. Mike, I want to have your answer.
Oh, of course, of course. What do I do? And how did repeat the question one more time?
Yeah, it was what do you do for fun, and what did CAS do to influence that, or if it did?
Well, CAS
if you want,
influenced a lot of fun. Like I said.
Go ahead.
No. I mean, you can chime in. So no, I mean, for me, CAS just allowed me to just be myself. It just allowed me to be myself. I didn't have to act like I was this super smart professional, none of that. Because it just taught me how to just be myself. And what I do for fun is is what I do for a living every day. And listen, just because somebody's career path, like everybody's career in here sounds awesome, by the way. You know what I'm saying? You sound extremely happy, even if there's gonna be good days and bad days, but everyone is anything, and whatever it is that you end up really doing for the long haul, as long as you're having fun with that, it's never work. So for me, like, I'm in the studio every day, from every single day, or I'm traveling to different studios to work with different people. That's fun for me. I like my American airline points is amazing. Like, it's just, I have a lot of fun just doing what I do. Like I've come from a sales background. So I have fun just meeting people and just working. That's all.
That's awesome. And I really appreciate that, that you can kind of put your CAS life into everything that you're doing. Well, I'm looking at the clock.
Yeah.
Dr. Burke wants to say a couple of final comments, but I do want to mention that our Director of Development at Penn State Berks made a couple of comments that I think are important to share. He and Dave DeLozier said he's so impressed with our CAS alumni today. You make us all Penn State Berks proud, and he thanks you for giving back to your alma mater today. And I thank you for that too. So Dr. Burke, would you like to make some closing comments?
Sure. So thank you all for taking time out of your busy schedule today to talk with us. I know some of you are on lunch break. I know some of you are just waking up, but I appreciate the time that you spent with us today, and the time that you gave up to share advice and information with our current students and our staff and faculty at Penn State Berks. I also want to thank you on behalf of all the CAS faculty. Dr. Ramsey, Nicholas, Williams, Professor Wrights, Professor Katnack, and myself are extremely proud of you all and grateful that you were here today. And as Dr. Ramsey and everyone said in the chat, you made us all proud. So thank you. Thank you very much. And please make sure that you keep in contact with us, and we will keep in contact with you. Thank you.
So thank you all for coming today. I appreciate your time and your enthusiasm and giving back to our CAS major. I will be referring to this chat in my classes for a while now, because the things that you mentioned are so relevant every single day. And thank you to all for joining us today. Thank you, Dr. Burk, for facilitating this. And one of my biggest takeaways was the concept of being a chameleon. And I know that I have lived that as an undergraduate communication major as well. A special thank you to all of you for joining us on our LionSide Chat. As you click out of our webinar, you'll receive access to a survey. Please take a few minutes to fill that survey out and give us some ideas of what you thought about today's chat, and perhaps offer some ideas for future chats. Be sure to come back to us and meet other faculty, staff, alumni, or students to learn about our exciting majors and experiences that you can be part of here at Penn State Berks. Stay safe, Berks and beyond. Signing off until next time. This has been Penn State Berks LionSide Chats. Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone. Congratulations.
Thank you. You were amazing. I really, really appreciate all of the time that you spent with us.